Generally speaking, it's just a set of builders who regularly build the code and report the results to a central server that represents the result in this website. If you look, this is the master branch, and we have quite a few of builders reporting builds, and the red ones are the bad ones, the red ones are the ones where the build did fail, and the green ones are the ones we want to see. That's where everything went according to plan. And to break this down, you have these little notification boxes basically, and if you click on details, you will see the details of the bot, so how long did the build take, how long is the average build time and stuff like that, and also links to the build blocks, either in a shortened form that basically strips out the line into that the script might think is an error line, so it basically just matches against error or exception or strings like that. And also the full log is also available, and for convenience also a link to the Git web that shows you what kind of revision it did build. But of course, because of the proxy here, I have trouble accessing the site, so I cannot really demonstrate it here. So just take my word for it, it would lead to the GitHub, not GitHub, but the CGIT web interface. And for example, if you open an error log, it looks like this. You have the tinderbox administration info at the very top. The administrator is the one who's responsible for running the specific bot. You see the label of the bot. In this case, it's a macOS bot, and also have below there the list of potential errors that you think it might look like an error. For example, here it's because it's warning line or something like this, and usually I just pick the go to end of line because when the build breaks, make stops, and it's usually at the end of the line, end of the log. And in this case, you see the problem is unresolved symbols, because the master is currently in the process of deprecating the 32-bit build for macOS, so it's kind of expected to see the Mac build break. So that's just an example of how you would use the build log to watch out for errors. What Tinderbox does additionally, at least if configured so, is also to send out mails to the developers who were checking in code the last successful build, and it would look similar to this mail. So, and you see it, it's from the macOS bot on the master branch, and it makes a set of people who were writing commits since last time. You also have additional info box with the configure flags that were used on this specific bot, and the list of commits that were in between the last successful run. And then follows the complete build log. It's kind of hard to read because it's the full log and not stripped down like the brief log is. But in the end, we get to the same conclusion basically. So that's the reporting part of Tinderbox. Tinderbox setup isn't too hard if you already know how to build LibreOffice. If your box is already set up to building LibreOffice, you can check out the buildbot repository that's also available on Gerrit. So gerrit.libreoffice.org/buildbot. And in there you find basically two different set of build tools. One is TB and one is Tinbuild 2. The old Tinbuild has already been removed from the repository because it's unmaintained basically. And if you were in one of Björn's talks, you have also heard already of TB3. That's currently still in development. That's a little smarter than Tinderbox itself. But for now, I suggest to use the TB script. And if you look in the repositories, you see the actual script that we would run after having configured it accordingly and just look into what is needed to configure it. There's the config file annotated so you know what's supposed to go in there, like the tinderbox name, the identifier of your box, how it should be represented in the tinderbox summary, and also in the mail you just saw, how much time it should wait between builds, where it should store its log file, basically where you have your stuff installed, what active profiles, what kind of stuff it should cycle through. You can configure it to not only the master, but also the release branches, like LibreOffice 4.3 and LibreOffice 4.2. And finally, of course, you need to send out the mail to the tinderbox so it can display the results and also mail the developers. So you need to specify the SMTP server and your credentials. And you could also use it to configure environment settings using the script if you don't do it in the global shell environment. Then it mentions here the active profiles, and those have their dedicated configuration. For example, here's the configuration for the master build for Gerrit. And every profile has the configure flags it should pass in the AutoCAD last run file. In this case, it's only the disabled dependency tracking flag. And it also has a config, like in this case the type is Gerrit. It means it reports to the Gerrit project for a patch review. So if you have privileges, you can request that a couple of bots build your change step to verify it builds on all the supported platforms. You will specify the identifier of the bot, the branch it should work on. For Gerrit, it's not so much of an issue because it builds the corresponding patch itself. So, but for the release in tinderbox mode, you would still specify master, LibreOffice 4.3 or whatever you wanted to build. You tell it where your sources are, and also here's a little error I spotted. It's because of the results need to be reported to Gerrit, you have to account for your box there so it can, the communication is allowed. And easiest is to do it in your SSH config file. Create a host entry that specifies your username with the port and the key you used to register it. So it's just the type that is to be switched around. So TB Gerrit 99 is used in the SSH config, and here is Gerrit _ TB 99. So of course you should match them up if you configure it. The alternative script that's more flexible if you're not happy with the default action it does is the tinbuild2 one. That's in the bin repository basically. And there you have the concept of the phases that you can override.
You can do that in TB.
Yeah, but I find
you say that in the config.
Yeah, I find it easier in the tinbuild2. That's what I have set up. I can show you a real example.
I'm sure you can do that in TB too, because I wrote it too, but you can do that even more flexibly in TB.
Yeah.
Because you can do that per profile.
Of course, here Norbert knows because he wrote most of it. So, in the case of doubt, trust him and not me. So, I'm just using tinbuild2 on the ones I did set up because I, at the time, wasn't sure which one is the newest one, and the 2 was more than just TB. So, I kind of was misleaded by that. So, and in the tinbuild case, you have the same basic stuff. You have your AutoCAD, just in a little different representation. You have one AutoCAD folder for your different types. In this case, I have one from master branch for the 3 branch, for the 2, and an obsolete one that's still lying around that's not used for the 1 branch. You have the similar config files for the various profiles you have. Also specifying the SMTP host, the name of the tinderbox, the ID that's used on the wiki page to identify the where it should store the metadata, like when was the last successful build, when did it fail, what commits are in between, that's stored in the metadata there, and also where the sources are, and whether it should update daily builds. Basically, the same stuff of the configuration you had in the tinderbox one as well. Also, how much bandwidth should it use to upload the daily builds, for example. But for most of the time, you start off just by producing the build results, and then later when your bot proves to be reliable, reproducible results, you can start uploading the daily builds to the build server. But that also requires having an admin get your SSH key to the server, so you actually can push to them. Yeah, and what TP does is just cycling through the active profiles, and checks if there is something to build. If there is, it stops the build. If not, it goes to the next profile, checks whether there are new commits, and just keeps building until you stop it. And that's basically what all the builds do. The boxes don't need to be connected to the internet all the time, just when sending out the result mails. So even if you don't have a stable internet connection, but the bot can run 24/7, it's possible to set up a box. Just the requirement is that it should not build once a month, but regularly. Otherwise, it's not of much help if there are thousands of commits between the different builds, so it's impossible to find out what's actually causing the problem. And of course, if you enable sending mails to the individual developers, you spend tons of people on the That's basically the overview of tinderbox I wanted to give, and now it's basically time for questions to go into details that were not covered, or whether you want some more info. Alright, who of you did already build LibreOffice? So I don't know.
Yeah, but not. What was not taking is this tinderbox is kind of a daemon running on my local machine.
No, the tinderbox is used as a term for both the slave that does the builds and also for this website basically. If you talk about tinderbox, this is the tinderbox website, and each of the builders is also a tinderbox.
So if I install this according to your instruction, then I will also get this control web page.
No, this control web page just receives the build log via mail, and you locally just run either the TP script or the tinbuild2 script. That's all it is to it. So you
the basic thing is you're going to get to the repository, you're going to have a shop or a top of the kernel, right? And it's going to compare it to what was the last time you built. If it's different, there's new stuff. It's going to do a build. So first it's going to send an email to that website saying, I'm about to build this guy. It's going to do the build, and at the end of the build, if it's successful or a failure, it's going to send another email saying this is the result of the build. And then it's going to sleep a bit, and then pull again the report until there's something else to do and keep doing. It's not a daemon, because it runs as a plain shell script, it's going to block your console. Right? So it's not on the cover. You start running it as a script, and it runs, and if you want to terminate it, Control-C, it dies. But you can stop it nicely. But yeah, that's it.
So this is an example of how you would call the tinbuild2 script. So now the profile it should build is the master one, and it should mail all. That means all is the tinderbox server for the logs and also the committers in case of an error. For testing, you can set it to owner only. That means the admin address that you configured, or in other words yourself only, or you can also send it only to the tinderbox website.
And the TV, for instance, which was actually the third iteration of the thing, was designed to be able to be multiple. This is one profile at a time. You pick a profile one. And this was designed so you could run two in parallel and they would interlock with each other to make sure they don't step on each other. The next generation was TB, which himself managed all those profiles and choose which one to do, so you don't have this kind of things. And the other thing was, the difference was the configuration that was rethought to be much more normalized, with the naming convention to be clearer, well documented, more documented. And more importantly, a TB, well-configured TB, to run it, there is no parameter, you just say TB, and everything else is already in the config file to tell you what to do, to avoid having to do those long run and bunch of things. And TB also has one thing that I rarely use, but intended for builder, or release builder, is actually it can be triggered by external event on file. In other words, you can configure that the profile is to be monitored, but the reason you build it is not because there is new stuff. The reason is the existence of the file. So if you have another process that decides this is time to do this profile, it touch this file, then TB, as you monitor all the profiles, say, oh, this file is changed, so it's time to do it. We'll run it, then remove the file. And so it's a one-shot. It's a way to trigger it based on the problem or some other event.
Of course, you can also run different instances of Timber 2 at the same time, because they also use locking mechanisms. But it's multiple processes to start, and in TB you start one command and it cycles through all the profiles itself. So that's
the locking was a big problematic for multi-platform.
yeah.
Linux works well, but on Windows not so well.
If you don't have a locking that works in the build repository, there's also a lock that you can make and use, so with that it works on the other systems as well.
I'm not familiar with the build process of LibreOffice, but how are you doing? Is Tinderbox made for making clean builds and is taking care that there is no debris there's rest from previous builds? Is it cleaning up things?
It is a configuration option you have. You can have Tinderbox do incremental builds. That means you build once, you update the source and run make again.
Yeah.
Or you can set it to always make clean before starting again. So it depends on how the mod is configured. For Garrett, the default is to always do a complete build.
Yeah.
But for example, the TB box, the Mac 37 one, that does incremental builds, and here, for example, it takes 3 minutes for it to do an incremental build. Of course, this is much faster than doing a full build, but it is the choice of the Tinderbox administrator on what is used.
And on TB, the script TB, if you have a Garrett one, you don't have a choice. There is no incremental, because when you do a Garrett build, what happens is you're not going in time linearly like you would do with monitoring the branch. So you made the hash to build something that is actually 3 weeks old, followed by something that is current, followed by something that was 2 months old. Because it's whatever the person, and those patches will linger in there for a while. So you would go all over the place, and it was deemed that it would be probably not that good to do incremental build with such variation. Whereas the Tinderbox that actually keep track of what's coming, it is always going forward by small increment. So those kind of incremental build are very stable nowadays. They work very well, and the difference being 3 minutes instead of an hour. And so yeah.
Okay.
So that's, for example, the configuration that is used for the bot. So it has incremental equals 1, so it's enabled to do incremental builds for master.
Can you show the wiki page where you register the Tinderbox?
On the Wiki Document Foundation org development/Tinderbox, we have a short blurb about, on how to set one up. Basically, that explains how to use the Tinderbox scripts, and also below the table of the known Tinderboxes, also whether they upload dailies or not, and who maintains them, and some characteristics, some notes that apply to the board.
You'll notice that all the Tinderbox have the platform with some name convention, but most importantly, @ and a number. That number is a Tinderbox ID.
Okay.
And you get one by editing that page, go to the end, assigning, and getting reserving one for you. The reserving, it doesn't read anything, doesn't do anything. That just means that if your Tinderbox you know, it becomes stable and you want to use it, etc. And then after that, when we get you into Gerrit and all the place, we have a unique ID for it. And everything is based on that ID.
Good.
So when we talk to each other, it's not tinderbox blah blah blah, it's tinderbox 37, tinderbox 38, tinderbox 41. Okay?
On the daily builds that the tinderboxes upload are dev builds, LibreOffice are daily / branch name, in this case master, but it's the same server as tinderbox, so from this Wi-Fi network you will get the timer probably. So just reload it a couple of times, maybe it will make it through, but already taking too long.
What's still unclear to me is server and slave. So slave, the script is around the script, then I have to slave.
Okay.
But
There's no.
It's not server or slave technically, it's client server, because the slave is really the website. Your tinderbox decide when it runs, what it does. It's not being told to do things. It's not a slave in the sense that it's not a server telling you to build something. You go and decide what to build. In Gerrit, you ask if there is something to build, but you're the one who initiates the communication. So there is no incoming communication to your machine. So, and because you send email to notify what you're doing,
But I send it to some central point.
you send it to an email address. It just, there is a bot that does email automatically and process that. There is no connection, you don't log to anybody, nobody logs into your machine. You can, that then we did it on purpose. Because you don't want to tell people, give us SSH access, we're going to run stuff on your machine.
But TP3 is meant to be more clever about what is being built. So for example, if you look at master end, for example, after a weekend where there's not much activity, on the next Monday when there's a new build, all the bots build this very same revision. For example, and the TP3 that Björn is currently making the goal is to have them more spread across all of the commits basically, and not just one. So when one bot just starts building one revision, that revision is flagged as already in use, so other bots who want to build something are requested to build another revision, for example. And also it's a kind of collecting the results in a different way. So also when there is a breaker, you could tell them, oh, this break, I know this revision is bad, and I know the last one was this, please put one in between to bisect it, basically. So this is the evolution of tinderbox, basically.
Do you have enough right now, or are you hoping to get more?
Well, everyone who complains about his specific configuration being broken in the build should provide one, so it's being checked out. Well, Linux, of at least the release configuration is covered by TDF itself. So, but of course, we could also need some more who runs extended tests, like for example this box. It's currently not building because
It's still building.
it's still building. It takes so long to run the extended tests. So here it broke 500 minutes, 520 minutes. So having more of those boxes that don't only run a build but also do some extended testing would be interesting to have. But of course, then not the spending of the developers, but maybe have a separate results page where they record the results of their additional tests.
So the two direction is the time, right?
The vertical is the time, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not
linear.
It's not linear. It's just every time there is a event, there is a new line. So you could have, sometimes it looks like that it's an hour, depending on what happened. And sometimes big like that, and there's so many events that occur that really that work is only 15 minutes. It's not at scale. It's just every line is an event.
But the slave also reports start now.
Yeah, because when you decide to do something, you send an email saying this is the timestamp I'm starting, and we're starting a build at this place, blah 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 blah. That's where you see when you see it in yellow, like the bottom left of the page here, the detail in yellow. That's a start notification. We know it started at that point, and it's going to stay like that until it finishes and then become green or it become black.
If you click on the header of the tables, you see the details. For example, average build time of the board is 520 minutes, but currently it's already 2,600 minutes going, so it's very likely stuck or completely down before sending the results. So I wouldn't expect any results from the board without the administrator checking up.
It's possible also that we recycle the machine because we had trouble yesterday and we now lost a couple of emails, so we don't know it's finished.
Yeah, it's also possible to be.
Just some practical feedback question, because I'm, as you made the red green impaired, so I can't really read what is in the red.
Well, tinderbox also has other display means like a quick pass format where it indicates the status with letters, also a machine passable format. So the color choices were the ones by Mozilla basically, and we just took them. Those lists state that tinderbox knows
The
about
box
it.
on the build in progress status available. I can't read the text.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily read the text, you just need to know this is a red or not green, but of course if you're a red green Hamilton.
Just the feedback,
Yeah.
you know.
Here, for example, it has a build succeeded but test failed. That's currently not used by most of the bots. But for example, it has one where it knows itself something failed during the build or during the internet connection was broken. It could check out the word. It could tell, well, while I started the build, the results are completely irrelevant. Just ignore this box. The tinderbox itself originated from the Mozilla project, and we just took it with the minor modifications. Basically, we edited the error parser that parses the logs and looks for lines that might be the error.
We did a lot of work on the client side because the build system changed a lot and we wanted to improve, but the server fall into the category of good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There were some changes for during the open office time already when the different version control systems changed. So initially it has a on-site integration for CDS, and then we added SVN integration and Mercurial integration. So in the guilty column you would have the commit names of the people who committed in the time, for example. And if you would click on the timeline, you would have the list of commits directly in the tinderbox interface, but with which it wasn't just limited because we have CJIT and the link to the commits, so it works.
I think that's the only thing we changed on the server side. To add the directly configured.
Yeah, and we made the pop-up more persistent because it would auto-pause if you move across the close link, so that irritated people, so we made it sticky. So you have to explicitly close it up. So mine is we could change the colors. It's also a small configuration change. Unfortunately, from this network, you can access the specific server that runs the tinderbox. So
is it actually able to? Is tinderbox able to use for cross-compiling? It seems to use just the regular building infrastructure of what you need to build open LibreOffice. So
it could.
You could.
It doesn't care.
It doesn't care. It should work.
Let me rephrase that. It's not tinderbox. Tinderbox is just a shell script.
It just says build it whatever you have been told.
Configuration you tell me to use. So if the build can build cross-compile, whatever, it's just calling make.
And that's all almost.
Make clean, make it, and a few other things, but it's really a shell script that just do what you would do to make it, and then do some target zipping and sending it in. So whether or not you could cross-compile has nothing to do with tinderbox.
we have a couple of Android labeled boxes.
Those are native ones. It's not cross-compiled. It is on ARM. It's compiled.
No.
Those are cross-compiling for Android.
Okay.
But it works because people have put the support of cross-compiling Android.
Yeah.
But you can cross-compile Windows, for instance. Well, you used to, but it wasn't that good. It didn't work a lot. Technically, you could cross-compile PowerPC and Mac, the old RPC before we dropped it,
Yeah.
but nobody really bothered to do it, so it's not supported in the build system itself.
Yeah.
The
It's
tinderbox
on
is
the
nothing to do.
documentation see, for example, it's a Debian 64-bit.
Okay, yeah, no,
which
it's-
is crosswords
yeah.
for Android Arm.
Oh, because I think well, it's in a special case. I know about the OpenBSD guys who insist on building natively. So they build OpenBSD on a VAX because they want to build it on a VAX, not doing cross-compiling. So you're not completely against cross-compiling, at least not
but
for that.
For stuff we release,
Yeah.
so up to now, we've always built on, for official release of official stuff, we've always built on a native platform.
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit more risk of doing it cross-compiled.
Yeah.
And all the platforms we support are fairly modern and recent and can build in a decent amount of time, so we don't have that VAX problem because we don't support VAX as a little.
Didn't expect that.
So Windows can only be built on Windows.
Yeah.
If you want compatibility for existing extensions or basically it requires
It's an API problem.
Right.
There was the reason for it, and there is leftover of min-GW support cross-compile, but the result is an API that is incompatible with existing plugin and stuff. And it's not tested for that reason. It had no future because there's no way we're going to break API compatibility just to be able to cross-compile it.
Because the existing stuff is compatible with
Visual Studio and the API is such that all the plugin, all the extension will break. And nobody wants to take that pain just to cross-compile.
So how many Windows tinderboxes do you have?
3, 4.
Well, we are now at 55, but not all of them are active any longer.
It's Windows specifically. You guys Windows?
Windows, yeah.
Oh, Windows.
You got 3 and I got 1.
I have, well, not sure whether you want to count the master and LibreOffice for 3 as one, and the other one that only does LibreOffice for the 2 branch X2 or just the 1. So I run 2, and there are
Candy,
two others.
and somebody and I have 1. So that's 4, right? No, 5. That's
So you could need another one.
Yeah.
well, because there's Garrett behind that we haven't talked about because this is the tinderboxing part, and this part of tinderbox 6, everybody can do it, and you can report or not report your result. Okay, and there is the next step, which is registering for Garrett, so that Garrett could ask you to build something for him. So when a patch comes into Garrett, before it gets integrated, it's reviewed, and one option we have is to do a verification build. So we have a button that's a schedule, and what it does is it will wait for the tinderbox to contact Garrett and say, hey, give me something to do. And you will tell him, build me this, which is the version of the product plus the patch that the guy wants. And he goes and builds it, and we make it build on the 3 platform, on Linux, on Windows, and Mac. So we need Box to be able to build those things. And if we, in the perfect world, we would build every patch before they get in the product on all 3 platforms. But we're doing an average of 80, let's say 80 patch a day. Okay, so that's roughly 240 build, 80 on each platform a day. And a Windows build is an hour and a half, so do the math, the number of machines it will take. Right? So of course we can use.
So the current Windows tinderboxes are going against master?
They're going against different places. There is no.
So currently we have 3 active Windows bots on master, and we had a couple more, but they are inactive right now for whatever reasons, or just did not provide
So you
any
could
forces.
use some more building power specifically for Garrett, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, tinderbox-wise, it's not like we're missing tinderbox. There is good coverage. We can always use more, but it's not critical. But in order to get to the next step in Garrett, we'll need Windows, Mac, and Linux. And we're thinking about investing in having Linux and possibly Windows in cloud to do on-demand build like that. Mac's going to be a problem, but we'll have. We're going to start to make people that have been sponsored to get a Mac to force them to use those Macs to do build or manipulation, and that should solve the problem.
And what about using the new machines? Because I know that's something that Orange brought up, is using the new machines that are coming in on October to do it, to do more within.
Well, we don't have those in addition. The other infrastructure will be completely moved to those two machines. So while the existing tinderboxes will have more resources, maybe one or two additional ones can be added. So we need to see how it fits in the whole picture. And also, of course, having all in one central place is also not a good idea. So it's better to have also contributors who then actually can work on fixing the specific bug instead of having one people oversee 10 or 12 tinderboxes and just can't do anything about the errors that it shows.
And the other thing is a tinderbox is the first step to ever being able to do a release build. So if you want volunteer that eventually are capable of doing release build and do that for the foundation eventually, the path for the Padua to get Jedi is get a tinderbox. First running for yourself, then sharing your result, then uploading daily build, and people start using it because you consistently improve the build. And sometime you say, well, why don't you take over? Puff's going to go on vacation, we need somebody to build a Linux build, so you've been doing a good job. Why don't you try it?
But I need some carrot logo for this.
In order to have the tinderbox that you build, yes, because it has you use the Gert interface to register. But what happens is I need, and you can send that to me, based on the tinderbox ID that you must have assigned to your box. Then it's going to be the ID, whatever. I have a script to create a special kind of user. It's a batch kind of user that doesn't have a lot of privilege in Gert, but it has the privilege to go and talk to that server that tells them what to do. And I'll take that user ID, the user ID constructed with that ID, and we'll put the SSH key that you would have gave me for that specific user. Okay? And then you could connect using those credentials to connect to Gerrit and say, is there something to do? And they'll tell you, yes. If you record it and what to do, you do it, and then you call him again and say, hey, this is the result. But TV does that for you. You just need to tell him the username. And TV, the mode equal Gerrit. As long as you give me the right credential, SSH credential, all the rest is already scripted. You don't have anything to do.
And currently, since there are so few bots that do Gerrit builds, the trigger ring of verification will disappear. So if you have the right here, there's a schedule button where you can just fire off the queue. But of course, the goal is to have it built automatically, more or less every commit.
So if you do that, it just holds this in the review, like it doesn't commit it until it's verified that it works.
And
well, it has Gerrit has the notation of a code review and a verified status, and when the build passes, it sets verified +1. So
Okay.
that is.
Okay.
you don't have Gerrit admin? You don't have Gerrit admin?
Gerrit admin, what is Gerrit admin?
Gerrit admin. Git admin, I mean the build.admin, where you're not logged on.
What do you want to show? What do you want to see?
The queue, the Gerrit queue.
Well, I never watched the queue.
You have the plugin column. Plugin. Column. Yeah, okay.
It's a CSS program with the logo.
Because the problem we have is that there is no Linux box right now doing those things. So that kind of blocked the whole thing.
What no Linux box?
Yeah, ironically enough, right this minute, this week, for some reason, there is no Linux that asks that talk to Tinderbox Gerrit to ask a new job. So the Windows and the Mac version of those builds are done, and we're now queuing up waiting for somebody to do the Linux one.
But why is Linux for listen?
Because my Linux bug that used to do that broke down 6 months ago, and I had to put it back on, and somebody else Linux, I don't know, the guys at the conference, the Linux bug is not working for some reason, I don't know.
Just wondering, because everybody's working on Linux.
Make it work. I mean, I'm here.
And what's the slowest specs that you wrote? Because I have a couple of laptops that are kind of slow, but they're not doing anything. So,
well, for Gerrit, it should be around 2 hours at most.
okay. I don't think it'd be 2, maybe 6 on some of these.
faster the better, of course, but having
We
one
try
takes-
to get good within 2 hours, but then at some point we may have to be relaxed on that because if we want to get to the point where we build them all, we may just cannot afford to do that in the 2-hour range. Per.
I said 2 hours because that's the Windows phone takes around the time, so.
It would try not to be worse than Windows. There's a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But with in the dedicated box that have a good CC cache, you definitely want to use CC cache. If you're doing the full build and guaranteed to build our full build, you definitely want CC cache. And with a fairly warm cache, all of a sudden the Linux should probably build in 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
From after cleaning it, like after I fresh for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, as long as you have a good cache. Right?
Yeah.
The very first one's going to take 2 to 3 hours, whatever, but after that, it's going to be significantly faster because it's just I will checking the cache. It's not actually doing it.
This Mac port has an average boot time of 14 minutes, and that does clean builds. And in this time is only counts the successful builds.
Is Linux consistently the fastest?
Mac is currently the fastest, I guess. Well, because of the Linux probably run nice and are not dedicated for actually running as tinderbox all the time. For example, the TDF machines share VM with a lot of other stuff, so their build takes 85 minutes or 60 minutes, yeah, depending on how much is going on in the server, so around an hour. So who builds the other tinderbox?
I'll try it.
Alright. That's it. Thank you.